Today I'm going to be talking about seeking validity in video games, and I feel like this is a topic that I usually talk to with my friends and family, specifically my cousins, because they all witness the same thing when we're playing video games online. Whether it's with friends or with randoms, everybody seeks validity in some shape or form. But I'm going to talk about how it's most prevalent with the impressionable youth. You know, when they come back from work or school, they're looking to unwind. They could use video games as a source of venting or some kind of cathartic experience or communicate with other players in ways that it could be aggressive or passive aggressive, but they also do it primarily for enjoyment, whether it's to build their own self-esteem by putting other people down, or it's to avoid having the spotlight on them and a chance to not be exposed about how poor they performed during the game. Another reason why I'm bringing up video games into this whole validity concept is because video games have a more constricted and confined moment of time where you work towards something and those rewards are given to you instantly. It's not like in reality, you know, you go to work, you do your tasks, you get them done, but the rewards won't be given to you until maybe every 2 weeks. Right? You get your paycheck and that's your reward to keep on going. I guess rewards will vary in terms of how people value what is rewarding to them. It could even be customer satisfaction. It can be just communicating with coworkers, you know, making friends and building your own network. But in terms of immediate rewards, you can get a lot of that in video games compared to the real world practice that everybody will go through at some point in time. So why am I bringing this up? Am I trying to question if seeking validity is a good or bad thing? It's actually neither. It's actually more important to learn how to control those expectations. The results can be low at self-esteem, or you'll get more self-esteem out of it. And the thing about seeking validity is that it's not exclusive to only competitive online games where it's you versus everybody else. It's also with video games that are cooperative, like Valorant, CSGO, or Overwatch, where it's you and the team versus the other team. And I'll talk more about this a little bit later, how that a lot of it can come from internal conflict. And what I mean by that is that, like, for example, I've had someone tell me that video games should not have difficulty sliders because it makes him feel compelled to play on the hardest difficulty because he's worried about other people asking him why he's playing on a lower difficulty and not the max difficulty. So in a way, he doesn't want to feel that all his efforts are undermined. But it's like, you paid the $60 to $70. You should play the game however you enjoy it. I don't know why you're making it such a big deal. If you kind of pay attention to how the internal conflict is presented, you kind of get an idea of why they bring it up to you in the first place, or why they would bash on somebody else about why they're playing on a lower difficulty, because they're saying, man, I put so much time, you know, I had to grind so much to be able to beat just the first boss or whatever, and this guy made through half of the game in like over one night in under a few hours. And so it's kind of like a personal battle that they go through. They want to get that validation of that is the ceiling, that there is no room to go higher for any other person, and I did that. I don't know, man. Imagine a world where you can just play your own game, not worry about how others play. Like, why do you worry so much about how others would see you play the game? And even worse, why are you so conflicted about how you think the game intends you to play? If they're giving you the options of easy to hard or nightmare or whatever, that means that the game is giving you that option to play it your way. If they wanted you to play it one way, there wouldn't even be a difficulty slider. And I understand the argument of then that's why there shouldn't be a difficulty slider, but you paid for the product, that's the product that you're taking home. And that's the thing, the game doesn't intend you to play in any way. That's just you creating those conditions for yourself. It's self-inflicted. So just think about one thing, right? It doesn't matter, you can be playing football, you can be playing soccer, you could be playing video games, or you're at a competitive setting at work. It doesn't matter what it is. I want you to pay attention to how little others are actually thinking about you. They're spending more time thinking about themselves and how others will look at them. So if you're here worrying about how other people will look at you, and they are thinking about themselves, why are you wasting your time thinking about what other people will think about you? So in other words, it's better to stay in your own lane. They're thinking about themselves, you think about yourself. That means nobody really cares about how other people are performing. Think about how many more people fall under that circumstance. They don't care like that. Now going back to when I was talking about competitive and cooperative games, teammates would purposely, like when you're with teammates, whether it be friends or randoms, sometimes they would purposely insult their own teammates, mostly for the fun of it or to like get the whole intensity going forward. But 9 times out of 10, they're doing that to also build their own self-esteem. Of course that varies, like you know your friend better than I do, right? But if you pay attention to how randoms especially will do it, that's kind of the general idea that you're getting at. But also it's interesting how at the same time it's a defense mechanism for them to avoid taking in that spotlight, so no one really notices how poor they perform during the game. And so it becomes kind of a game of who can throw each other under the bus, you know, like, oh man, you should have had my back and this is why I died so many times or whatever. You just gotta accept that that's kind of the video game culture. But the more you understand the psyche behind it, these players, the less bothersome it gets. I mean, to your own advantage. You can just either play along with it or just mute him. 9 times out of 10, they're looking for a reaction. Just don't give a reaction to it. Sometimes they are so in their head that they can't even take a compliment. For example, you can say that, hey, you're a great healer. And they'll be like, oh, that's all I'm good for? Is that what you're saying? Here, let me do the damage so I can show you what big numbers look like. Like, what? Like, damn, who hurt you today? But that's the thing, your mind hastily filters incoming information that you don't even give yourself the moment to process whether if that information is positive or negative. You're not going to look at it as a compliment, you're just going to take it as a threat and it'll be an insult. And so the reason why it's important to get this need for validation under control is because it can lead to destructive behavior to not only you, but to those around you. So there is a YouTube channel under the name of Healthy Gamer. So there is a YouTube channel under the name of healthygamer.gg. The person behind it is Dr. K. There's a clip that I want to show you that sort of helps you dive into the mind of someone that's really in their head seeking for validation.
Do you feel like you've lived up to your potential?
Definitely not. I feel like if I'm supposed to be smart, like I feel like in many ways I'm supposed to be smart because of like what the test told me, but I feel like my life hasn't really lived up to that potential, lived up to what it means to be smart.
And what does it mean to be smart?
Well, in my opinion, like people who are smart usually get good grades or successful or have a lot of things going for them in life when it comes to like success and either money or grades or something that makes them stand out, like some sort of status usually.
Why do you stand out?
Oh my god, this I guess I could go into a lot, but I feel like there's certain behaviors that I do that make me stand out just because I try to stand out. Like I think in some ways I've exhibited attention-seeking behavior in the past, or behavior that where I want to be like at the forefront of like whatever's going on.
And what makes you want to be at the forefront of whatever's going on?
Because I feel like if people acknowledge me, I feel more validated and I feel more adequate, I think.
Do you remember, that's a very analytical answer. Do you remember, was there a certain kind of acknowledgement that you wanted growing up?
Growing up, I'm going to be honest, when I was really young, I didn't really need that much acknowledgement from my peers because I was kind of off doing my own thing. So I feel like this has been a recent thing. Like when I was really young, for the most part, I got most of the validation from myself, or most of the validation internally. Whereas now, I feel like a lot of it has.
When did that change?
I think it changed like late teenage years, or yeah, I think like late teenage years.
Do people tell you that you haven't lived up to your potential?
Not necessarily, not directly, but I feel like there are indirect ways that people say that or whatever.
Can you give me an example?
Well, I think it's communicated sometimes through like if I get a bad grade, I usually think to myself, oh, like I should have gotten a better grade just because of my potential, or like what did I do? What am I doing wrong, or why am I not getting the sort of success in school that I expect?
Why don't you think you're getting the success that you expect?
Well, I think I just have a lot going on in my life and a lot on my plate that kind of distracts me from being able to work effectively at school. And I think it's not just it's not just that I have a lot on my plate as far as mental health is concerned, but also because I get pretty distracted. Like I have problems with focus and paying attention, and I have like ADHD and stuff like that.
So we learned that the speaker is saying that he has ADHD and can't really focus on his tasks. So whenever he gets a bad grade, then he's saying that, man, I could have done better. Instead of looking at it as, yes, there are ways to get better and you can make the steps to improve, he's looking at it sort of at a defeatist perspective and saying, well, I got this condition on me, and I guess like this is the route that I'm just gonna go through in my life. And the reason why that kind of mentality can get destructive to not only you but to those around you is because if somebody tells you, hey, nice shirt, you're looking good today, right? The average person will probably tell you they gave him a compliment, but in their mind, for the person that received the said compliment, they're probably gonna think, why not my shoes? They're thinking about every possible gateway to something that gives them the room to feel less confident about themselves. And so of course when you have these people go back home after work or school and they get on into an online space, how do you think that they're going to communicate with random people online? Hey, I got the higher kill death ratio, or I've acquired the most currency out of everybody, or hey look, I got this new gear, I've done the hardest raid, or something like that. It's not like it's wrong to go for like the best things in video game, like the highest score or whatever, but there is that little hint in your mind that you're asking for somebody to tell you that they wish that they could have had what you had. And in turn, that is what fuels your self-esteem, which at the end result, it seems like all is fair in the game, but at the same time, it's like a double-edged sword. Like say like you're trying to play a game mode that is 5 versus 5 people, and you're saying, hey, we got 2 random people in our team, and the rest are us friends. We just need that third person to fill in for us. And you go into the game, you're trying to cooperate, but the end result is that you guys lost. And now, most of the time, you and your friends are probably going to blame the random, right? But the person that has anxiety has the tendency to seek validation. They'll probably be the first one to tell you, at least I hard carried, you know, which is basically like I got the highest kills or whatever, just to kind of put themselves away from the opportunity to be the reason for the loss. But meanwhile, their friends are just not even thinking about it. They're already thinking about the next game. You see it all the time. I'm pretty sure you do. Now, I was also looking into something else about how the rates of anxiety and depression have increased in the last few years. If you can imagine how bad it could be for people to have low self-esteem before COVID, how would they be when COVID was at its peak? People were boxed in under quarantine and were incentivized to keep themselves away physically from other people. That physical detachment only fueled more desire to connect more with the world, and this is through virtual means, whether it's social media like Twitter or Instagram, or even through video games, any way that they can get themselves out there again instead of being stuck inside their head at home. And if you take a look at the American Psychological Association website, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, they show that the depression and anxiety rates among adults in America quadrupled between April 2020 and August 2021 than they were in 2019. And keep in mind that these are reported numbers, so think about how many people out there haven't even reported. You can see that anxiety has been risen from about 8% in 2019 to about 30 to 37% in 2020 and 2021. And you can see the same for depression. It used to be around 6 to 7% in 2019 and then has risen to about a whopping 20 to 30% in 2020 and 2021. So you can only imagine how much self-esteem has dropped when you factor in these values. I don't know, maybe this video seems more like a rant than anything, but honestly I do wish for those that are struggling that maybe in the near future or so that they're not so stuck in their head. Hopefully that a time comes when they can look back and just kind of laugh at how they used to be in a good way, that it's like, oh, it wasn't so bad. You know, people don't really think that hard about how well I perform at a cooperative game or something. You know, it doesn't matter what you're playing. And at the same time, make no mistake, I it's not like I never sought validity either, you know. I mean, in high school, you know, people were wearing snapbacks. I thought maybe if I wore it, I'll be also the one of the cool people. Or I don't know, wearing cargo shorts and socks pulled up all the way to the knees, you know. But like, everybody does it to an extent, but there's always a voice inside our head that there's always more that you can do, or there's always less that you can do. But you also have to realize that this drive to seek validity, it also works as a defense mechanism. If you're going to a huge party and, you know, it has your family members, you're not gonna go in your pajamas. You're gonna go and dress up, look nice, right? That is thanks to your defense mechanism, and you're gonna want to put effort. Even though if you haven't gone to the gym for the past month or two, you're gonna start doing push-ups right then and there, like the day of going to a party or something. You know, I've done that before. I'm not even gonna sit here and lie or anything. Like, you really have to put your best foot forward though, but it comes with a risk involved where you can be very harsh on yourself. It becomes so much that even if others try to cheer you up or compliment you, there is nothing positive for you to process. Like, you're not giving yourself time to filter those thoughts because it's going so fast. It's like you're trying to digest a meal, but you're not even letting your tongue savor it and basically inhaling the information, because you've already been conditioned to look at the world in that way, that, you know, everybody's sort of a liar or everybody has some kind of ulterior motive. But that is a very unhealthy way of living life, because 1, you have a hard time loving yourself, and 2, you only antagonize the people around you. Doesn't matter who they are. They can be strangers, they can be your loved ones, but that's just because of how much little room you give yourself to be loved, let alone loving yourself. And so when you take that desire to get the validation online, you open the floodgates for everyone, and this is including people that put others down to make themselves feel good. Sure, you might say, well, that is how you grow a thicker shell. Yeah, I mean, I've been through that. You know, it's not like I've kept myself shut from people that were toxic. I've dealt with a lot of toxic people. They've had their motives, but eventually you start seeing your own value and you learn to cut people out, and that's for your best interest, right? If you stick to your own lane, I promise you, going forward, starting today, if you stick to your own lane, you're going to be in a much better place, because no one's going to be your biggest supporter, your biggest fan, other than you. And if you have people that support you, then even better. Anyway, I think I rambled on a little bit too much, but I'm gonna wrap it up here. I think I've been recording for about 2 hours. But yeah, keep your head high, king or queen, depending on who you are. And I promise you that you'll know who are the ones that are gonna stick by you, because there are so many people that are out there for themselves and will bring down other people for them to be higher than them. You'll know because of that natural filtration that will let you see who are the ones that'll stick by you and for the ones that truly care for you. Anyway, take care.